10 identical Nissan Pulsar EXA Turbos. The names are getting longer than the straight.
10 identical cars, prepared in fact by Fred Gibson to be absolutely the same, but 10 very different drivers. Celebrities: Allan Jones in the black turbo, number 10. Alongside him, number 8, the name Brabham. The driver, Geoff, back from America, a great Australian competing on the American scene. 05 is Peter Brock on the second row of the grid. Alongside him, the French driver, Jacques Laffite, car number 2. Behind them, Roberto Morena in 19, car 31, Jim Richards. Behind them, Alfie Costanzo and Fred Gibson. On the back row of the grid as the flag drops, Dick Johnson and Allan Grice invited to the meeting and have to take the back row of the grid because that's the way they were balloted. Not practice, just balloting. And it's given Jones and Brabham the front row. What a pair of names to have on the front row of the grid. And it's Jones who just goes inside Geoff Brabham. The black car is Jones, the silver one is Brabham, and the red car of Peter Brock. Trying to slip on the inside and away from the back in the silver-green car, Dick Johnson it was, who took an enormous shortcut there and maybe has just gained a little bit of ground on the field.
He did balk a little when he walked in here today and found that they'd allocated him a green car, I might add. 17
there is Dick Johnson, who started from the back row. That's Jones out in front. The car's all the same, turbocharged 1.5 four-cylinder engines, front-wheel drive, a production car that cost about $12,000.
Nissan racing manager Howard Marsden told me the only thing that they've done to them is put a little harder brake pads in them.
And they've also got them running on Dunlop high-performance tyres. Those are only 2 changes from standard. In fact, they're all carrying identical fuel loads. The depth of rubber on the tyres is all the same. And Fred Gibson, during the week, has driven all 10 cars to make sure they behave in exactly the same way. Allan Jones in, just weaving across to get a fast line through. Brabham's close behind him, and right on Brabham's tail is Peter Brock. And it's Jacques Laffite, the Frenchman, in 4th place.
Dick Johnson's doing all right there. He's managed to force his way up through the field into about 5th spot.
Well, Allan Jones, 3 abreast. Johnson's on the inside and going just a little faster.
Jim Richards, yeah. Who's that on the outside?
I wouldn't like to be in the car, whoever it is. Jim Richards is balking a little bit. The one on the outside is taking a suicidal line. Number 4, was it?
Looks like Allan Grice.
It drives like Allan Grice, too.
Well, he and Dick were a bit annoyed that they had to start from the rear of the grid. And
Alfie Costanzo doing some rally crossing, by the way, and Alfie waving his head more than the steering wheel, gets back on the circuit, and Christine Gibson behind being very ladylike and getting a great view of the mayhem going on in front.
I hope the Hertz people aren't watching, because that is in fact a Hertz rent-a-car that Alfie's driving.
Well, Christine went round in a polite way and got a much faster line out of it. In fact, got back on Alfie as they came through. That's Alfie and Christine in the 2 yellow cars at the tail of the field. Up at the front though, and just smoking a bit of that hard brake lining, Allan Jones, still leading from Geoffrey Brabham, Peter Brock, Jacques Laffite.
Brock in 3rd place, pretty anxious too to try and get by Brabham, but he's not getting any opportunity to do so.
8 laps is the distance. Roberto Morena was the 5th driver there. They're all running as they were balloted. No practice, this is just the way they came out of the hat. And fancy out of the hat drawing a Jones and Brabham on the front row.
Yes, it's amazing, isn't it?
It was a similar car to this that Christine Gibson drove at Bathurst in the James Hardy 1000, prepared of course to our Australian racing touring car regulations, but it was the first appearance of the Pulsar EXA, or the second. It ran in the Castrol 400 at Sandown.
Just on the edge of the circuit there, a little bit rough, Jones. Straighten up now, coming down to the start-finish line with 5 laps to go.
It's Jones and Brabham from Brock, from Laffite, from Morena. Then a bit of a gap back to Johnson and Grice, who've done wonderful things to get up as close as they are, because they started from the back row of the grid. These are the cheapest turbocharged cars you buy in Australia, about $12,000. Everyone wants the quick line. 19 was Roberto Morena, who will start from pole position in the Australian Grand Prix, which will be the final race on the program today. One of the yellow cars in the back there going off wide, I think, was Alfredo Costanzo. Alfie will start on the front row of the grid alongside Moreno in the Grand Prix. There's Johnson following Grice around. Then a gap back to Jim Richards. Cars weaving through the S's, coming down towards Glowweed Corner. Jones has got himself quite a handy lead. He just, I think, has inched away marginally from Geoffrey Brabham, who though comes very fast through the corner, and Brock right on the tail. But because the cars are all the same, no one can do much about changing position.
Well, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 are running in exactly the same order that they came off the grid. That hasn't changed, and they've got 4 laps remaining.
Allan Jones is reportedly off to Europe soon to sign a contract to return to Formula 1. A shame he's not going to Japan, because whoever wins the race will win a return trip for 2 to Japan, courtesy of Nissan and Qantas. Could be a handy place for him to go, but it'll be a great prize. And
well, if he's not available, I'll...
You volunteer?
Yeah. 58.16 is the lap time that Allan Jones has turned in on the previous lap.
And Peter Brock, who will be driving in the touring car race here today. 5 laps down. Starting from the front row of the grid in that event, alongside George Fury, who in the Nissan Bluebird Turbo made fastest time in practice yesterday. Christine Gibson will be driving in one of these cars in the City of Melbourne Touring Car Trophy as well. She qualified in, where was it, 12th place on the grid, which was a good effort for Christine. In the touring car version of this, her qualifying time was 47 seconds. Jones is going around in 58. That's the difference then between a modified version of this and the absolutely standard cars such as we're seeing now. And still the order is the same. Brock still in 3rd place and not able to do much about getting by Geoffrey Brabham, who, while he can occasionally just get a little closer to the rather stubby tail of Allan Jones's car, can't get within striking distance. Top or within 3. In fact, we've got a fair gap now on the rest of the field. Peter Brock looking across at the other side of the circuit as though he was trying to find some sort of shortcut. Weaving in the background is Dick Johnson with Allan Grice right behind him, making life hard for Grice, who wants to get by. They're running in about 4th and 5th place. Brabham sticking, oh yes, really sticking on Jones' tail, coming up to Glowweave corner. He's got him. But will Jones give way? He won't when he has to go wide. Brabham is through. Brabham back from an intensive season of racing on the American scene where they drive it hard and rough, and Geoffrey Brabham making a great name for himself. 2 laps to go. Side with 2 laps to go, and Brock may have the chance now too. He's getting a bit of a tow. That's him on the red car. Decides to stay there a bit longer. Brabham on the inside. Brock going to make a dart if he can. Hasn't got the legs. Brabham will hit the front though. Jones on the outside, and Brock goes through, and Brock in fact might come out best of the lot. He's gone right through in the middle. Brabham said, "Where did you come from?" He said, "I come from Australia." That's the way we drive over here. And now Jones is making a move. Both have lost a bit. Brabham back into 2nd spot, maybe 3rd. No, still holds on to 2nd, but Brock has gone through. The crowd is cheering here. A big crowd at Calder. Brock's in front. What a dynamic corner. Brabham on the outside there. Jones goes on the inside. Both cars weaving under brakes. Jones in 2nd spot. Brabham back to 3rd, but as Brock is leading. We're coming up towards the last lap, are we, Garry? Yes, coming up. Just over a lap and a bit to go. Coming into Glowweave, they come down to the start-finish line now, and Peter Brock has pride of place in this race. 1 lap to go. Allan Jones 2nd. Geoffrey Brabham shuffled out in that last dice into 3rd spot, and that's allowed the rest of the field, in fact, to close up behind them. Not that they're going to have any chance of catching the leading division. Morena is in 4th place, Dick Johnson 5th, and Allan Grice. But down into Valvoline corner for the last time, it's Peter Brock with a couple of car lengths on Allan Jones. Great passing manoeuvre on this corner last time round for Brock to get by. Oh, he's been nudged by Jones. He corrected though, held it. That was a miraculous bit of car control. We'll see that later. He got nudged. Jones came in very close. Nothing deliberate, just they're driving desperately close together. And Allan Jones has to be content with 2nd spot. There'll be a big grin on his face. Up go the headlights. He's winking at us. Or is it Brock that he's trying to give some sort of message to? He's saying, "Sorry, fella, but give me another go. I'll try it again." And he probably will. Well, he came up so close. He said, "I wasn't world champion for nothing, you know. It's okay to be king of the touring car roost, but I do know a bit about driving these cars." And Geoffrey Brabham coming up very close behind Jones as well. Said, "Well, if you can do it, maybe I can. Here's my nose. What are you going to do about it?" You've got to hand it to Brock. He got out of that okay, and he still clings to the lead. That manoeuvre did come off for Brabham. Jones holds down 2nd place, but it's going to be Peter Brock to take the checkered flag. Then it's Allan Jones. And then in car number 19, Roberto Morena got up to past a somewhat displaced and disgruntled Brabham, who has to be content with 4th place because Moreno at the very last moment got up in car number 19 across the line. Well, what a remarkable race, and what a great morale booster for Peter Brock, who'll be featuring in the touring car race just a little later on today. Peter Brock, the winner of the Nissan Turbo Super Challenge. Allan Jones in 2nd place, and Roberto Moreno, in fact, getting up just to pip Geoffrey Brabham for 3rd spot right on the line. We'll be back at Calder after this break.
Every now and then, something different comes along that's so exciting it makes you want to... Introducing the new Pulsar EXA Turbo. With turbo efficiency, turbo economy, turbo performance. Pulsar EXA Turbo at around $12,000 plus on-road costs. It's going to go mighty quick from your Nissan dealer now.
Well, there weren't any spills, but there were thrills aplenty in the Nissan Turbo Challenge with all the top local and overseas drivers competing in that last event, and Peter Brock doing miraculous things. Firstly, on the 2nd last of the 8-lap event to get the lead here, coming down into Valvoline corner. At this stage, Brabham challenging Jones for the lead and getting it. Brock had been lurking in there behind them. Now watch this inside passing manoeuvre by Peter Brock. He gets Jones and Brabham both in one go. Jones can see the wisdom of the manoeuvre and tries to follow suit. And in fact does get through to take second place, but Peter Brock, brilliant stuff to take the lead in the race. That was with about a lap and 3/4 to go. Now, on the last lap, Brock leading, Jones second, and Jones so anxious to get through, as you can see there, really gave Peter a nudge, but Brock did remarkably well to hold on and go on and win the race. Allan Jones filling second place, and right on the line, Roberto Morena getting up for third. For the presentation after that race, let's take you now to Evan Green.
Well, the Nissan Turbo has been run and won by Peter Brock, and if I can just bring him away from the other drivers, the big shock at the back here, Peter, is they've all discovered that it was worth $7,000. As Allan Jones has said, if I'd known it was $7,000, I'd have hit you harder.
Well, I don't blame the guy. I mean, we're having a lot of fun out there, but $7 grand is pretty serious business, yeah.
Allan, can you come up here?
Jonesy.
You look as though you had that one for a long time.
Well, that's right, but as I said, if I would have known it was $7 grand, I would have braked at all. I would have used him.
Peter, how on earth did you control the car after you got hit? Because from where we were sitting, it looks as though you were out and off into the railway line somewhere.
Well, we don't, obviously, not trying to say the wrong thing, but the little front-wheel drive car's understeer, which means the front tyre slides sideways. But when Allan hit me, it knocked the tail around beautifully. I just kept it flat and it pointed in the right direction, went out of the corner like a rocket.
Well, there's the cue for Howard Marsden, who's Nissan's development manager. If he only could build that into the cars, Howard, you might end up with a sensational machine.
Absolutely right, but we have been trying to say to people in Australia for the past couple of years that advanced engineering design and motorsport go hand in hand. You couldn't have had a better example of that than we've seen today. I'd like to say very quickly thank you to the international drivers for taking part, because it's tremendous to see them in Australia. It's very good for Australia that these people come and drive in our country.
I think also we should congratulate Nissan on their great support of motorsport in Australia, and of course in providing cars for entertainment like this.
Yes, and of course we do put the first prize of the EXA upon the Grand Prix, and we're very proud to do that, as well as put on this little demonstration.
Will it be the car that got hit by Allan Jones, or something a little newer?
It's a matter of whether Allan Jones wins the prize or not.
Well, you have a cheque to present to the winner. The prize, in fact, is for a return trip for two to Japan by courtesy of Nissan and Qantas, but the value is $7,000.
Yes, we're delighted with the assistance that Qantas have given us in this matter, but Peter Brock, if I could offer a prize to Peter at the moment, there is one proviso. Peter has won this prize, but he must take this trip on the first weekend of October of next year. Peter, well done.
Thanks, Howard.
And it's back to you, Garry.